Hey everybody, welcome back to my Rikka deck profile for January of 2021. I went ahead and I played this at my locals as well as at the extravaganza. Unfortunately, I didn't do super good in the extravaganza, but I did like fairly good at my locals. I guess if this is a deck that you're interested in playing, I would recommend taking it to a locals to just kind of like, play just like, just generic remote duels online. I think that you'll do like fairly well with this list. But obviously, you do have to kind of know what the deck does. We're going to go ahead and get into it. So we have 3 copies of Rikka Petal, and we have 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom. So we need to basically see Rikka Petal in every single hand. And if you'll notice, we have 10 ways to do that in this deck, and these are just 6 of them. So we have other 4 in the deck somewhere, but we'll get into those as we get further into the deck. Obviously, Lone Fire Blossom isn't specifically just for Rikka Petal, but the majority of the time, that's what you're going to be summoning. You can summon a lot of other stuff off of the Lone Fire. I know, like, going Lone Fire into Lone Fire into Lone Fire into Rikka Petal is, like, important. It can happen sometimes, but I don't think that it is as relevant in this deck because sometimes you do want to have the Lone Fires for follow-up turns if you happen to draw them. That's like the idea. I didn't really see Lone Fire as much as I usually do. I saw it like quite less frequently than I expected actually, but I saw Petal a lot more, which is really weird. Then for other Rikka cards, we play 3 copies of Mudan and 3 copies of Snowdrops. So these are both like, well, obviously the Mudan's more like consistency since you can add Rikka spells or traps, especially like the Rodad. And obviously Snowdrop is really important because you can modulate your levels and make them both like level 8s, level 6, level 4s. Those are like the most important levels in your deck. Worst case scenario, if you get like hand trap with this, you can usually just make something else, which is fine. And I'll go into that in a little bit in the extra deck. Yep. And then I decided to play 2 copies of Primula. This is a free extender, so I figured like why not? You do have to kind of like work your chains very like weird. You have to like remember to summon this, otherwise you're just obviously gonna have it stuck in your hand. I definitely forgot like once or twice, so I do need to kind of practice with this deck a little bit more and get used to getting, the Primula effect in Grave or like the Erica effect in Grave as well, which is obviously one of the next cards. We're also playing Cyclamen. It came up like once, the effect in hand. Other than that, it's like a level 4 that you can normal summon. Basically, like what is it? Like, I think like turn, like 2, if you have a Petal, you can summon your Petal back. Search for Mudan, tribute the Petal for Mudan, search the Glamour, and then you can use Glamour tributing the Mudan to add Primula and add the Cyclamen. Special Primula off of her own effect, and then normal summon Cyclamen, and you can make the rank 4 off of just 1 card. Obviously, it takes a little bit of cards in your deck, but that is one way that you can do it. And it's pretty nice. Also, like, obviously, like, searching this off of Glamour is, like, really good, especially since you can just trigger it in your hand immediately after. So, it's kind of like, I think, like, Salamagrate Gazelle as, like, the best way for me to explain that. So that does it for Rikka monsters. We're not playing Hellbore, and we're not playing any Evil Thorn, which I might come back to at some point, but I don't think that they're really worth it. We're also not playing the Generator Engine, which I know a lot of people play, and especially going first, it's, like, pretty good, but unfortunately we're not playing it. Then for hand traps, we play 3 copies of Gamma. This is really good because obviously Lone Fire Blossom is a huge target for Ash. So if they Ash your Lone Fire, you can just chain Gamma since you have no cards on field, since Lone Fire tributes for cost. It's pretty good. Obviously, you play the 1 brick for that, so we'll put that there. Also, you play Extravagance in the deck, so if you Extravagance and they Ash you, you just Gamma and you're fine to draw 2, and you get a lot of advantage, so it's pretty good. 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This card is pretty good as well. Obviously, we don't want to get Ash, but we want to Ash our opponent, which is pretty good too. Then we also play 2 copies of Skullmeister. And in the side deck, we play Ghost Bell. So sometimes we swap them out depending on which one is more important for the matchup. Or if they're both important in a matchup, we side them both in. So, yeah. I think that does it for the hand traps. I think that is about it. So moving on into other interactive cards, I guess. We'll go into 3 copies of Evenly Matched as well as the 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. So these are basically like board breakers. Going second, We do go second in this deck. We try to go second, so we hit them with like an evenly. Usually like Eldritch is pretty popular this format, so like evenling someone is like really good. Dark Ruler No More is not as important, but the main idea that it is for Dragoon, because I know Dragoon is a really hard card for this deck to out. So obviously going into the Dark Ruler No More, just negating it and then going into like Teardrop Tribute it is like really good. So that was the idea behind that. Then for Rikka Spells and Traps, we play 3 copies of Glamour and the 1 copy of Tranquility and the 1 copy of Sheet. Just 1 of each. I don't think there's really much of a reason to play more. You could argue that you could have played more because they are like interactive, like controlled trap cards. But I think that this is really all you need. Glamour is really nice, just a Rhoda for everything. And Tranquility is really nice just because if they like target your Teardrop, you can just like chain distribute it and summon back 2 others from your graveyard. It doesn't target as well, so it's really nice, so they don't really know what to hit with like DD Crow. And then Rikka Sheet is also really good just because like Widow Anchoring your opponent's stuff is really good. If you draw these like together, it's really good because you can take their stuff and then like tribute your monster, take their stuff, then play Tranquility, tribute their monster, and then summon 2 back from grave. So like that's really cool since it is treated as a plant monster. So you can obviously tribute it with both effects. And then the remaining spell cards in the deck, we play 2 copies of Pot of Extravagance. If I had 3, I'd play 3. I don't have a 3rd one, so we just opted to play 2. 1 copy of 1 for 1 and 1 copy of Call by the Grave. And the last card in our deck is 1 copy of Super Polymerization. So this is actually really interesting, and I have a reason for it because Predplant Verte Anaconda is a plant monster, and Eureka's do lock you into plants, but that's not really that big of a deal. And you'll see why once we go into the extra deck, and I'll explain that when we get there. So, moving on into the extra deck, obviously we play the 3 copies of Teardrop, and the 2 copies of Kanzashi, and the 2 copies of Strenna. So obviously Teardrop is kind of like Trident, just target a monster, just tribute it instead of destroy it, just like Trident. And then the Kanzashi is actually really important for trying to OTK your opponent. If you can make this with a Teardrop on the field with a material, you win the duel. Or not like win the duel, but you're going to attack for game. Obviously, if you're attacking to an open board. So you use Teardrop to attack for 20. Usually it'll attack for like 3,000, but sometimes it'll attack for like 28. Kanzashi will attack for 24, that's 52, and then you can use Teardrop's effect, tribute itself, and then you can use Kanzashi effect to reborn the Teardrop, and then you attack for 28 again, so that's going to be 8,000 exactly. Obviously, I think you're going to be going a little bit over, because obviously if you tribute during Teardrop's like own effect or whatever, you gain 200 attack for each time you tribute that turn. So yeah. Kanzashi's like fine, it's not like that good, but it's fine. Strenna's really good if you open like specifically like, I don't know, I think it's like Petal, Snowdrop, and like Primula. I think you can like make Strenna, add back like the Snowdrop, and then you obviously contribute the Strenna with like your Mudan or something like that. Get a Teardrop on the field, or you know, set this with like a Sheet on the field, and you get 2 interruptions. That's also pretty good. It plays around quite a few things, so I think that's pretty cool. Gets a little bit of advantage back, which is really nice, so that's actually like kind of nice. 2 copies of Alcide. So obviously we play Extravagance, and we need a rank 8 to get to, and Alcide is also like the next best plant rank 8 that you can summon. So Alcide just basically like bounces stuff into the top of the deck. You can also kind of mind trick your opponent with this card, which is really cool, because if you're playing against like a combo deck, you can just be like, alright, Alcide effect, call Nibiru, and then they're kind of like scared to play around Nibiru for the rest of the match, which is pretty nice. Or you can like Alcide call, I don't know, Red Reboot, Alcide call, Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, whatever. And then against like control players, they're going to be a little bit scared to just combo off, so I think that's pretty nice. Then we also play 2 copies of Dragite, so this is actually pretty good, because you can summon this off of the Gamma. Worst case scenario, it's a out to Dragoon. So if you activate like, you know, Extravagance, they chain the Dragoon to negate, and then you chain Gamma. Gamma obviously won't destroy the Dragoon. You'll summon your 2 pieces. You can overlay for a Dragite, and then just punch into it and just destroy them both by battle. That's like okay. It's not like particularly great, but the idea behind this is that you can basically just negate a spell or trap if you have a water in your grave, which your entire deck is water, so why not? You know, Dragonite's pretty good there. Also, if you side into Nibiru, you can use its first effect to excavate 5 and then bounce like rock equal to the amount of rock monsters on your field. That's actually like kind of important. It can come up games 2 and 3. Then the rest of our monsters in our deck is a copy of Jasmine and a copy of Predaplant Verte Anaconda. And finally, we have 2 fusion monsters that we summon, and we have Dragostapelia, and we have a Predaplant Chimera Flasia. So there are 2 reasons behind each of these cards. I think that obviously this Jasmine should actually be a Verte in this build, but if you're playing like Evil Thorn and stuff like that, you should definitely be playing Jasmine. But yeah. Anyways, the idea behind these 2 cards is that if you have the Super Poly in your hand, it's kind of like bad because then you're like you can't really fuse anything if with like, just the Chimera Flasia, but you can with the Dragostapelia because you can obviously just activate the Super Poly and you can fuse their Dragoon with their own Verte, and then you can make Dragostapelia, which is pretty cool. It's also important that it's a level 8, but that can like come up later. If you have the Super Poly in your deck, you can just summon your Verte and then use Verte to summon Chimera Flasia by fusing the Verte. And you can also use the Verte effect to make anything dark, or you can just use the Dragoon naturally, which is really nice because this just requires a Predaplant plus a dark monster. So that's pretty cool. It also has a really nice effect that you can banish like a card that's a less level than it, so it's pretty cool. It can come up against like the Eldritch matchup if you want to like banish like a Conquistador or like a Hakero. Those are pretty good. Just like banish them, get rid of their resource. It's pretty cool. I do like that. I think that it was pretty good. I don't think I'd change it because like drawing a Super Poly wasn't terrible. Plus you only play 1 copy, so it's not like you're going to draw it super often. So that was the idea. Moving on into the side deck, we have some more hand traps. So we have 2 copies of Ghost Bell. So against like Virtual World, I think this is better than the Skullmeister. So I sided in instead of the Skullmeister. 1 game I just forgot, and I think it cost me the match, but that's unfortunate. 3 copies of Nibiru. So obviously this is like really good against like specific decks that you know don't play around it. Prank Kids especially, like if you just resolve this against Prank Kids, they just kind of lose. If they don't draw Exceed, which is pretty funny. Then moving on into other, like, oh wait, we do have one other hand trap, my bad. We have Droll and Lockbird for Drytron. So yeah, I think that's about it for the hand traps. Then moving on into like going second cards. I guess we'll do the going first cards. No, we'll go going second first. So we just play a lot of one-ofs. We just play a Cosmic Cyclone, a Harpy's Feather Duster, Red Reboot, and finally a Dino Wrestler Pinkertop. So these are just one-ofs that we play. The only problem I see with this is that against Mystic Mine, you don't have a lot of spell trap removal, which is unfortunate. You just have the 2. So if they negate those, you kind of lose. So I might put in more spell trap removal. I just don't exactly know where to fit it in, since I think everything kind of has a place in this deck. Maybe over like the Ghost Bells, or like the Skullmeisters. I don't know. So we'll have to see. But I do like Ghost Bell, especially because like going against like control matchups that play like Ice Dragon's Prison, you can negate the Ice Dragon's Prison. So like, I don't know. I can't really like determine what is like the best card to play for like what kind of like, you know, hand traps. Which one's better, you know, like Ghost Bell or like Cosmic Cyclone? I don't know. Then finally for our going first trap that we play is a copy of Solemn Judgment. We don't want to lose to like back row control decks, so like setting this is like really nice going first. Setting like, you know, Teardrop, Sheet, and then like a Judgment is like, what are you going to do? How are you going to play around that, you know? Not really. I think there's definitely ways to play around that, but this deck's mostly just for fun, so I did enjoy it. I think that is honestly just a pretty fun time. So yeah, also double sleeper cards, boys. It's pretty nice. That's about it for the rest of the video. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.